Hey guys, welcome to Rosie's Dessert Spot. Today I'll be teaching you how to make Gumpaste roses as requested by Love Baking One. I have some pink gum paste here and I've coloured it just so I can contrast against the white background, but you could do any colour. I'm going to add a little bit of vegetable shortening, not very much. By adding the shortening you help the gum paste to become a little bit more flexible, and as you're thinning it out with the bowl tip, with the bowl tool, it doesn't frail the edges as much. To make the rose, I have a set of rose petal cutters. I'm going to use the smallest one, which actually still makes a pretty big rose. So dust your surface with a little bit of cornstarch and roll out your gum paste really thin. I'm going to cut out about 15 petals. You don't really ever know how many you're going to use, or if you need extras, or if 9 is enough. But I like to go 2 in the middle, then 3, then 5, so I'll need 10. But I'm going to cut out a couple extras. And then also take a piece of your gum paste and make a teardrop shape out of it, and that'll be our base for the rose. Run it across the counter, that way it stands up, and that'll be important when we're making our applying our rose leaves. We'll want to give it a bit of a base where it can stand up and it won't topple over. This next step, you'll need your foam mat and your bowl tool. I've got all my petals under Glad wrap just to keep them soft. I'm going to start pressing and making circular motions in the center of your rose petal, and then work your way out and positioning the bowl tip halfway on the petal, halfway on your foam, and just gently press in and thin out that edge. You don't want to press too hard or you might rip, but that gives it its characteristic curved look. And the thinner you make it, the more realistic the petal will look as well. And then I've got a disposable teaspoon, and I'm just going to lay it on top of that. You could curve back the edge and pinch if you like. That looks really pretty too. And just let it dry while we work with the rest of our petals. So I'll show you one more time. Lightly work your way out from the middle, just thinning out that petal, giving it a bit of a curved shape. And then gently thin the outside, and because we added that shortening, it helps it not to fray, and it just looks a lot smoother. Could you do this with fondant? You probably could. I've tried making it with making roses using fondant, but it's not as flexible. It, for some reason, it just sticks to my bowl tool and it rips. It's just terrible. So if you were to use fondant, I'd probably do half fondant, half gum paste. Leave that to harden a little. I've cheated a little bit. I've had to redo my bud to make sure that it reached 2/3 of the way up the petal. Now these two I haven't pinched at the edges because they're going to be the very first two to wrap around our bud. And I'm going to wet the petal just in the corner, the very bottom, and I'm going to wrap it around tightly. So you want it to cover that tip there. And before I close it off completely, I'm going to also moisten my other petal. I'm going to sneak it in there before you close it off. And then wrap that around. You might need to add a little bit more glue to seal it off. Okay, and we have our little bud. I'm going to add some edible glue onto the ends of each petal. To attach it, I just go over the crease, just like that. And over that one. And then last one goes over those ones there. I'm going to add a little bit of edible glue wherever I think necessary. And these have been sitting out for about 45 minutes. And I'm just going to go over the creases again. This time I'm going to just encourage them to come undone from the rose, just ease them out. And my next one's slightly overlapping the other. Press it on and then gently maneuver it away from the rose. Just keep going like that. Slightly overlapping. I'm just running it up and down my work surface to give it a flat bottom, that way you can stand up on its own. And like I said before, I made a few extra petals just to fill in any spaces. If there's any gaps that I don't like, just fill them in. I'm going to start these a little bit lower than the rest as well. Then let it dry like that. I have a rose here that I made earlier and I didn't let the petals dry for as long, so you can tell it's a bit more wilted and it's much more of an open rose compared to this one here we just did. To colour them, I'm going to use some luster dust. I have red sparkle. I'm going to take my brush, very soft brush, and just dab it in, dab off all the excess, and apply on the inside of those petals. Make sure that your rose is nice and dry at this stage, otherwise you're going to start shifting all the petals and it could rip or break them off, or any other disasters could happen. So get right in between those crevices. Just a little bit up those petals. You may need to use a smaller brush to get into there. But just try your best to keep those edges nice and pale. I'm then going to go in with some snowflake edible luster dust, which will just give it a really nice shimmer. To put the excess back in, just grab your paper, use it back in there. Woohoo, beautiful. And then we put that lighter snowflake luster dust at the edges to really lighten those up. Okay. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know if there's something in particular I can make on this channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.